My name is Jonathan Dessa. As Omer had mentioned before, I'm the Senior Industry Principal at NetSuite. My focus is on HCM and SuitePeople. I've been with NetSuite for about 8 months now, and I come from an HCM background, and when I joined NetSuite, one of the key accountabilities from my perspective was to work with each of the customers in our beta program and ensure from an end-to-end standpoint. So from the minute they decided to move ahead with SuitePeople through the implementation components, et cetera, and help them really be comfortable with what we were doing. So that's myself. I'd like to ask Patrick to and the rest of the panel to go ahead and introduce themselves as well.
Okay, my name is Patrick Scally. I am the HR Director for Fisher Unitech. We are based in the Detroit area, and we offer 3D CAD software and 3D printing solutions. And we're about 200 employees. I was brought in probably around the 100 employee mark to really build the HR department. And we've gone from a very primitive system of spreadsheets and handwritten notes to implementing a system like this recently.
My name is Amanda. I'm the Senior HR Director for DSI. We're located in Kansas City, and we have multiple locations throughout the globe. We are the mobile supply chain app company, and we integrate with multiple ERPs, and we bring real-time data to our customers, and we integrate with different ERP systems, SAP, Microsoft Dynamics, NetSuite, of course, Oracle, etc. So, and we have about, actually today we have a little over 300 employees, so we're continuing to grow, and we're excited to be part of NetSuite.
Good morning, my name is Julie Forster. I'm the Director of Whole Human Resources for Greenberg Strategy, which is a market research and brand strategy firm based out of the San Francisco Bay Area with some satellite offices throughout the US and also in Europe. And we have 50 employees at the moment and growing, and so found ourselves in a similar situation to Patrick, meaning pieces of information are stored in lots of different places, and so integrating with NetSuite in this way has helped pull all of that data into one place, which is much more efficient.
That's great. Thank you. And just to continue that vein of thought, Patrick and the rest of the panel, could you talk about kind of your old way of doing things and what that now means from a process standpoint as you're starting to use SuitePeople?
Yeah, so literally day one, I was handed a spiral notebook and they said, this is our time off tracking. It was all handwritten notes. It was, again, very primitive. So, we moved on to Excel, but it was very just administrative burden. Someone would send an email, you'd have to track it. Now with SuitePeople, we've been able to actually have a time off plan assigned to each employee. We've also been able to implement different time off types, whether it be paid time off, bereavement pay, or even floating holidays. So, and it also gives an insight to the employees themselves, because before, unless they were tracking themselves, there was nowhere for them to see their time off. So now they have a self-service. They can log into their employee center and see exactly what their balances are. So it's really improved just not only administratively, but just the visibility for the employees.
And Amanda, from a DSI standpoint?
DSI formerly used, JD Edwards used to be our major ERP system, and when we switched over to NetSuite, the addition of the HCM and time off has been an enormous benefit to our employees, especially our global employees. Our previous system we used was through SharePoint, and JD Edwards fed that information into SharePoint, but it really didn't capture the different employee time off types that are all throughout our globe. People in Australia, our employees there, they have annual leave. Our UK employees have holiday, where here in the US we have paid time off. and it's a use it or lose it program. And so there's multiple, from bereavement, just like Patrick said, and personal time off, floating holidays, and so forth. And each country has their own specific time off plan type, and NetSuite has allowed us to now individualize each plan to the employees in those locations. And it's really nice because now they can all also go online, see their accruals, see what time they've used, and so forth and so on. And it's streamlined our process tremendously, and it's also helped us from having to do a lot of manual work when there was a dispute as to what time balances they may have had, and having to go back and research multiple systems. So using NetSuite has been great for our time off management for our global, specifically US of course, but globally has really made a huge benefit for us.
Great. And Julie, what about your experiences? Kind of, you had alluded to this, what you were using before, and what does SuitePeople now mean from a process standpoint?
Right, I think the biggest benefit for us is just the efficiency of having one tool that can be used for multiple purposes. So we did previously have an HCM system that was effective, but it was only used for one purpose, which was PTO tracking. And for those people who live outside of human resources, it was just complicated to remember where you go for which different task that you're trying to do. And so now having everything shifted over to NetSuite, meaning the directory is there, and the time off management is there, and the org chart is there, and they're already using NetSuite for project management and timesheet issues. It just helps simplify where people are going to get their information.
Fantastic. So I'm sensing this theme of time off management. Lo and behold, I think you're about to show us in the product a quick demo.
All right, so thank you very much. So this starts with our, I'm going to start with time off management. I'm going to show you some of the things about how an employee interacts with time off, and then how also HR interacts with setting it up in the system. So here we have our brand new employee center, which shows you a variety of portlets, brings together different information from the suite, such as your purchase orders, you can view the statuses, or you can enter new ones, your expense reports, you can track the history of your expense reports, or you can use these portlet-like menus to access additional functionality. We have a kudos feed. Employees can go in, give recognition to other employees, shows up in this, in this public feed, fosters a culture of engagement. We have links to different things like employee directory, org browser, and so on and so forth. We also have payroll. As I had mentioned earlier, we're careful about the information that is sensitive, so we only hide what you need. You can print your pay stubs, but all in all brings a lot of functionality together, including our time off. So you can see how in this particular organization, different time off types have been defined, from volunteer time to sick time, personal days, jury duty, and so on. You can see your balances right in your portlet, but you can also jump on from there to request time off if you like. So right now I'm logged in as Emily. She's our employee, and she wants to, let's say, request time off for vacation next month. And it's as simple as picking the dates from a calendar. Pick your start date. For the beginning of, let's say we're going to go for June 15th to 20th. It will create this table for you. You can see what types are available according to your plan that has been assigned to you and the balances. It even shows you if there are any conflicts or warnings. So I can see Christian is off at the same time, but that's okay because he works on a different project. So it gives that warning for both employees and managers. You can also mix and match. So you can here see, maybe the last stage, Emily wants to pick up as from a personal day pool, and she only wants to request half a day because she wants to come back to work for a meeting on that day. So you can do all of that using our new time off self-service. You can put in a message for your manager, please approve my vacation, see the summary, you're requesting 3 days and a half personal day, and the request goes through with a notification to the manager on which they can action. So very easy to use, straightforward. And it also flows into your timesheets and resource calendars for SRP. Now I'm going to look at the HR side of things. So this is my HR dashboard with my key metrics and KPIs preloaded for the HR for the HR generalist or HR director. I can track my requisitions. I can see the reminders. But let's go into our time off tracking and take a look at that. So we're going to look at how this particular company has defined its time off plans. I have here a company which supports Australia, Canada, US, and for each one of these jurisdictions, it has defined different plans with different leave policies and rules within it. So for example, a US plan can be different than the Canadian employee plan, which can be different than an executive plan, and so on and so forth. Let's take a closer look at one of these. This is my US time off plan. In this particular example, we have set it up with several types. So there is jury duty, for example, that is allowed. You don't have an entitlement for it, but when it happens if you are called. You can also see personal days, sick time. This company allows 15 vacation days every year for the first 5 years and 20 days after the first the first 5 years are over. So you can build the plans which dynamically will stay for the life cycle of the employee, and has lots of configuration options. In this case, the vacation time is set to accrue automatically. You can have 20 days every year, and they accrue on a monthly basis. So you have all these options on how and when you want to accrue this. How long is this plan valid for? And you can even allow the employees to carry over unused time off. I'm going to make a change here and limit the amount of time off they can carry at the year end, and set it to perhaps, let's say, they can only carry over 5 days after the year end. And you can even say, when does the carryover expire? So very extensive configurable options. And you can separate that by each time off type, by each jurisdiction or department or your location. So very comprehensive capabilities there for time off.
Fantastic.
Anything the panel wants to add there?
I would add on there that at our company at Greenberg, as your tenure increases, your amount of time off increases as well. And so that can be programmed to automatically trigger in this system, which is great.
Excellent, excellent.
And we were able to sort out the, because you had that one time off type where you were able to accrue at 5 years a week off, a sabbatical week as well. So that was fantastic as well.
Nice. All right, let's move on to our next topic of discussion.
Perfect. So, and we can start with Amanda from DSI on this. You've got employees across the globe, like you had mentioned. Could you elaborate a little on how you're using SuitePeople to track and those employees and what that means to your organization?
Yeah, I mean, our biggest piece with NetSuite right now with our global employees is the time off.
Okay.
But also the org browser. I'd like to mention that. The time off plans, as I mentioned earlier, they're all set up specifically for each country, and we're in the UK, we're in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Canada, and Australia, as well as the US, and then we have California employees, which all carry over time based on the laws in California. And so being able to use NetSuite to track all of that accurately is huge. Sure. Huge. And it's great for the employees because they can go in and see their balances and see where they're at as well. The org browser piece of HCM has also been fabulous. DSI, we never publicized our org charts, so we did not hand out org charts, or we did not distribute those to our employees. But with NetSuite and HCM, we're now able to, our employees are able to see who reports to who and what organization, what department a person may be in. We've got people all over the globe, so they don't always know who's new and who's coming, to different countries or to the US and starting. And so having the org browser in the HCM module has been great for them. It's easy for them, we have pictures, so it's easy for them to kind of put their eyes on the folks if they have not met them in person. And so that's been a great thing, and our employees have found that to be very useful. The other great thing about the org browser is as we make changes within our organizational structure, those changes, once they're made in NetSuite, are automatically and immediately updated with org browser. So what we were doing previously using Org Plus is a manual system. So anytime a change came through, whether it was a title change, department change, reporting structure change, we would have to manually go to Org Plus and make that update. And unfortunately, I was the only one doing that. So if I was tied up with other HR functions, it might be a day or two or maybe a week before I could update that. With NetSuite, it's an immediate change. As soon as we make that change in the program in NetSuite, in the HR record, it's immediately updated in the org browser. So the entire, anybody who can wants to find somebody can know that, okay, Joe used to report to Bob, but now he's reporting to Mike. And that's been a great benefit.
Great. Great. And Julie, did you want to elaborate from an HR administration standpoint what SuitePeople has meant to Greenberg so far?
Yes, I'd say we've had a very similar positive experience just in the efficiency of making a change in one place that then filters to a number of different sources. So layering on to the org chart, it also updates the directory as well. And that used to be owned by our head of IT, and I would have to send him an email and update this, and just as we're all busy, it's too many items to remember to do, versus now we can just make one change in NetSuite and it feeds all of these different sources, and it's very convenient.
Fantastic. And Patrick, for Fisher Unitech.
So Fisher was actually very similar to DSI in where we were using Visio for our org chart, and I was the only one to do it. So again, if whether people were coming on or leaving, if I wasn't very timely and someone needed an org chart, so I would have to update that each time. So that has been very helpful in the system because our staff is about 200 employees across 16 offices. So we have some very small offices. And just it really kind of bridges that gap of the geography between the offices. And what we do with the org browser is we use pictures also, but we allow people to put whatever they want. So it's also a culture item for us. So some people have themselves, some people have themselves, maybe rock climbing, or even a favorite movie character. So we've kind of integrated it culturally on that end. So it's gone really well, and it's actually kind of improved our communication style.
Perfect. So why don't we have a look?
Yeah, so I'm going to show you both the HR administration side of things, how you manage that employee record as you talked about, and then we'll a little bit later jump into the org chart. So let's start with that. There you go. So back into the HR dashboard here, logged in as Penny, our HR director, and she can see her KPIs and reminders being displayed on the dashboard. One of the very important things is being able to track your key HR processes, your turnovers, your hires, your any requisitions that you may have open at any given point in time, or any employee separations that are coming up, or new hires that are supposed to join. So that's all of that information can be easily brought to this dashboard. You also have access to your your HR master data, including things like your job catalog, which is something that our customers are able to define and use it to define and standardize all of their jobs across the organization. You can see the job ID, the job title, some basic information, but you can also define additional elements about a job in a company, such as their job description or the responsibilities, or see who are the employees assigned to those jobs, or initiate job requisitions directly from that job record. So you can now use NetSuite to define all of that out of the box standard functionality. And if you've already cataloged your job, and if you need to create a new one, for example, that's also very easy. In this case, I'm creating a new job for Scrum Master, which I will later on assign to an employee and show you how that is done. Let's do the title. It's a full-time job, a description, and we can save. I'm going to jump in from here into the employee record and look for Emily, who is the employee that we were looking at earlier from a time off management perspective. On this global employee record, you can see their basic information, their address, location, department, subsidiary assignment, how they fit in the organization. A very comprehensive human resource set of tabs and information, including their jobs. We just saw in this case, she is a software engineer, her subordinates, if there are any, supervisor history, work status, education, and so on and so forth. You can also look at the time of plan that is assigned to this employee, all of their balances and stuff for HR, government ID tracking or anything you need to track from a compliance perspective, time tracking or your timesheets for that employee, how they have been submitted, payroll details including earnings, taxes, and deductions for the US, as well as their compensation details. So you can define all of that in the basic in this comprehensive employee record. All the basic information is available there. It also supports the concept of effective dating, which means you can view or edit any employee record at a point in time. So in this case, you can make historical changes or future dated changes and pre-plan them. I'm going to go ahead and select June 1st as our date, and make a change to that employee record and propose Emily for a promotion that will take into effect on the 1st of June. You can select your change reasons, record that change, pre-plan it as I said earlier. And in this case, we're going to go ahead and give her a promotion from software engineer to her new job will be the Scrum Master, which we earlier created, which you saw me create earlier. And we're also going to go ahead and give her a pay raise. So we'll give her a salary increase from 60,000 to 65,000, review the change and submit that for approval so that once it goes through approval on June 1st, it will automatically become active in the system. You can also view the log, so you can see all of the changes on the employee that have taken place on any of the fields. In this case, let's zoom in into the job title, and you can see how that has changed. And this is what our panel was talking about earlier as well, that once you make a change, it will reflect right away on your org chart. But in this case, if it's a future dated change on that date, it will show up in your browser. So current changes, historical changes or corrections, and future dated changes, all of them are supported through the org browser, through our new employee record.
And I think it's important to note as well, you know, if you've got a manager change, that will all be updated from an org chart standpoint, and that helps from a data entry. That's exactly what you were speaking to. Great. So that helped with the foundational piece of kind of how the org browser is built and structured. So why don't we go ahead and talk about the next topic, which is about the employee experience. We've got a really tight workforce that's out there, and you have to ensure that from an employee standpoint, you're keeping your people. So there's this notion of a war for talent that's out there. And I know, Amanda, you've got some things to share, but each one of you really has unique stories that you could tell us about how you're handling the user experience in your organization. I'd like to start with Patrick, because you've got a great story. Patrick, if you want to start off the conversation and let us know how you're using and leveraging SuitePeople from an employee experience standpoint.
Yeah, sure. So actually the one feature that maybe when we got involved we didn't think was going to be much, but it was the kudos feature of employee recognition. And with the kudos, employees can recognize each other and attach one of your core values to that. So what we did with it, we actually took the kudos and we said, hey, whoever gives a kudos within a month, you can easily pull a report. We pull a report and we actually choose one person and give them a gift card. And it's a small just token of appreciation, but it's really turned into something culturally that we didn't expect. It's almost a friendly competition. Now we have people that are cutting out the little kudos thumbs up and putting it on their cubes to kind of track how many they have. We have a certificate with a value champion per month, and all of a sudden we went from maybe 10 to 15 kudos being given out each month, which now we're getting 60, 70, even 100 kudos that are given out. So it's really turned into a competition, and culturally people have really just focused on it. So it's gone really well, and so a feature that we didn't think was going to be much has really turned into an integrated part of our culture. Great.
Amanda, for DSI.
Well, the employee experience for DSI, we've been using NetSuite for a little over a year plus now, close to 2 years, I believe. And adding the employee HCM SuitePeople to the product has been great, because most of our employees have already been using it, and having the time off feature, the kudos is another area for us as well. We've created kudos that are specific to DSI and to our culture, to our vision, our leaders' vision, mission, and so forth and so on. Things that are critical to what we're looking for in our employees and keeping them, at DSI. So the kudos, the org browser, having the ability for everybody to see who is in our organization, who they report to, and so forth and so on, our employees have raved about having this feature now, because we did not provide that in the past. And so they're excited. They've been using NetSuite for other purposes throughout the organization, so it really made sense to just add this extra component. And so they've really, the feedback has been great. So our employees are pleased with the time off plan. They're excited that they can choose the ones that are specific to them in whichever country or wherever they are, California being a little bit different than the rest of us. And so yeah, the feedback has been great, and our employees are really looking for some more enhancements and to feed into more of what's available.
Great. And Julie, I've got to start this off with the story of when we came to visit Greenberg. One of the comments from Julie and her team was, we're a little apprehensive about rolling out a financial solution to all of our employees for HR self-service. And so I'm wondering if you can talk through kind of what the uptake has been at Greenberg and what the thoughts are, especially from an employee experience standpoint.
I'd say in particular from a new hire experience for people particularly who are remote, it has really helped cut down the amount of chaos I think that new hires can feel when they're hired to do a particular job, but there's always administrative pieces that go along with it. And I used to feel like we had a very complicated list. You put your timesheet here, and you put your time card here, and you can go here for org chart, and you can go here for this and here for that. And it's just a lot to absorb and a lot to remember when you're onboarding and trying to learn your core responsibilities here. So now being able to direct people to one place, you do your timesheet here in NetSuite, and you request your PTO here in NetSuite, and you can visit the org chart here in NetSuite. It just makes it seem very easy and streamlined. So that's been a great feature.
Great. Thanks. Omar?
Excellent. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. I'm going to go back as Emily and log into the Employee Center here. Excuse me. Again, Emily can see her portlets, but what I want to do is I want to go and look at our new employee directory. And she is looking for, let's say, a designer in the company. She met that designer last week. She doesn't remember exactly the name, but you can use keywords to search, designed by job title or by department or any keyword. We have 16 employees who meet that search criteria, very easy to use. You can see their name, title information, contact information, who is the supervisor, which department they are part of. These fields are configurable. You can pull in anything from the suite, from across the suite here. I can use it to narrow down. I remember the person I met was based in San Mateo, so I can filter it very easy, and there it is, Adrian. Adrian was the person. He gave me a good overview of the design department and the concepts that they are working on now. So I'm going to go ahead and give him kudos and tie that kudos to one of our organizational values, creativity in this case, let's say, and that will show up in our kudos feed and the public recognition feed. Also, I want to understand Adrian's organization and where he fits in, what does the organization structure look like, so we can jump to the browser very easily from directory. There it is, Adrian in the middle, his direct reports, peers, manager, their peers, so you're seeing multiple levels at the same time. Browsing is very easy, it's just point and click, so you click on another person, it loads their org chart, very dynamic. You can zoom in to see more details on the card. It works kind of like Google Maps, or zoom out to show a fit more on the screen, but it'll show you less information. You can also search dynamically, so if you're thinking of another person, you can directly look them up. In this case, let's look up Frank. Frank is the CFO, and you can easily jump to that organization. You can download this as PDF and use it for any purposes that you like, because that's something our customers ask very commonly, being able to download that org chart. So it's dynamic, it's downloadable, it's searchable, and it's super easy to use. Yeah, so that sort of, I think, it relates to some of the things that you have been talking about, how the employee record and that information flows in here. It provides, tied in with your kudos and everything. So anything anyone wants to add, how that adoption of this was in the organization, perhaps?
just find, pardon me, I find that the kudos are being more readily used. We previously had a kudos function in our former HCM product, but because that product was not used for very many things, people didn't log into it specifically to give a kudo, versus now they're in NetSuite for 14 different reasons, and it's easy to just, oh yeah, I think I'll give a kudo while I'm in there. So it's great.
Nice. Perfect. All right. We'll move on. So, Jonathan, back to you for our next.
Sure. So at the end of the day, you're using a solution, NetSuite. It's a very powerful platform. But then you're using the SuitePeople capabilities now, where you're tracking employee record information. And at the end of the day, the reason you're doing all of that tracking is because you want to do reporting, because you want to do some analytics. You know, eventually you'd like to tie all of that together for different areas of the business. But at the end of the day, you know, what are your thoughts on the reporting? And this time maybe we'll start with Julie. Reporting and the analytics functionality and capabilities of what you've been doing and using with SuitePeople.
Well, I'm super excited about being able to have lots of reports at my fingertips, because of course when I report up to the executive team, they always love to see reports, and in the past it was me putting together my own report, which can be time consuming, and so being able to just at the click of a button push out this, that, and the next, I think it's fantastic, and it's very well received.
Great. Amanda?
Well, the one thing that I found great about the reports, not only is it easy, as Julie mentioned, but they can be customized. So you can change the reporting to do whatever you need it to do. So whether it's turnover or the amount of hires, you can customize the reports. So that's a really nice feature. Not that we couldn't do that in the past, but it's very simple. NetSuite is user-friendly. It's a very simple product to use. And so the analytics piece is very simple, and the reports are, they're there, but you can customize the ones that are going to fit to your organization. So very simple process, very efficient.
Great. Patrick?
Yeah, so to kind of piggyback on what's previously been said, it's really at your fingertips, and a lot of the process and the reports that we were doing in Excel or outside of the system are now all automatically in there. So the turnover is a big one. That is one that our executive team focuses on each quarter. So that is one that we constantly track, and you know, just signing into SuitePeople, it's right there, and you can track it by you know, different. It's not just overall turnover. It can be by employee types, managers, departments. So it works really well.
Yeah, and actually one of our other beta customers as well, they're based in Wisconsin. I think I saw a couple of them in the room. One of the comments that they had made to us as we were going through the design sessions and design reviews was, wow, you guys are looking at developing exactly what we're asked to do daily or weekly or monthly, and then we have to create it in Excel and do what we need to do from a charting standpoint, and it's all going to be right there for us. We could, you know, just give our executives or give the right people access to the reports, and they can run their own analytics. So with that, I'll turn it over to Omer to show us some of the features.
Excellent. So let's dive into our reporting and analytics. So SuitePeople ships with over 80 actionable reports right out of the box from all areas, from time off to recruitment to government IDs, compliance, employees, etc. So you can track things like your headcount analysis and see how that has been changing over time. This is a very intuitive report. I can filter by departments or location, or I can segment the data in different ways. Let's go and take a closer look at, for example, two of our biggest departments, product and professional services. I can see that the headcount has been increasing, but this graph also shows me the headcount versus the turnover on the bottom side. So I can see in certain areas we have been losing some people on the product side. And that is interesting and something that we would like to see further. So let's zoom in on the product, split it by location, and see if we can pinpoint where are we having this turnover. Again, it shows me the hires and turnovers month by month. In this case, I can do it quarterly as well if I like. And I can see that in a particular location, Baltimore, we have had a recent turnover. I'm going to switch to our turnover analysis report and look at that a little bit closely. So product, team, Baltimore, turnovers. This is sort of what has been happening. We can see by voluntary and involuntary turnover, but what concerns me is that we had 16 turnover employees who left voluntarily, and that's something to look into. And that's because of either there was dissatisfaction with the supervisor or they found another job. So you can track all of those reasons and make sense of what's happening with the data. On the involuntary side, we had some regretted turnovers as well, people who left or had to leave, and that is because we eliminated some positions or changed the organization structure. And that makes sense because in this particular example, you may have had a reorg, or you may have had a situation where there was a merger or anything of that sort. So you can really drill down on the reasons and see what is happening, and maybe worth a conversation with your HR, within your HR department, or with the department head, or with the CEO of the company. So it gives you good insights into the data, lets you drill down and see why it's happening. And these are just some examples I gave you, head counts and turnovers. You can also look at other things like gender equity ratios, or things by department, location, subsidiary, all sorts of reports that I mentioned earlier on are available in NetSuite. And if you're using standard NetSuite functionality, you might be familiar that you can actually customize these reports and tailor it to your needs, and it's very powerful from that perspective. Right. Anything, Jonathan?
No, I think you've covered everything quite well.
Okay, we'll switch back here. Okay, so we'll thank you very much to our guest speakers here.